Giving a voice to the voiceless, we share the stories behind our freedoms and the ultimate sacrifice of those who protect us all. This is Patriots Inside the Wire.
Beautiful thing to see the family and friends come together and honor his life and his service to our country.
Great to see you guys out here. This is awesome, really.
Welcome to the Patriots Inside the Wire broadcast, hosted by Gold Star mom, Tracy Two-Step.
Is a Wednesday Warriors. We have a special guest for you tonight. I'm going to go ahead and bring her up to the stage. You are on a broadcast channel. You are also with a podcast joining us. And stay tuned, share, subscribe, and here we go. Mrs. Morhia Mote. Welcome, Mrs. Morhia Mote. And it is so lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Oh, wonderful. How are you doing, Tracy?
I am doing good for a Wednesday. I'm so glad to have you. I know that we met, and we were promoting, Ranger Rick and so many other things. And we got to meet through some incredible other organizations. And I was like, wait a minute, there is an actual Gold Star mom that's actually doing a show, literally. And I'm like, okay, I have been wondering, where is there another one? So I'm so happy to have you on. I have so much in here on you. What I'm going to do. I mean, you are a pro at this. Not only that, obviously, thank you for your husband's service, and thank you for your son service and your daughter, your whole family, because it is about that. So, and I'll let you get into more about that and what you're doing about what the journey in your life and your path and your resiliency that you have. So thank you for joining us on Patriots Inside the Wire, Morhia. I'm going to let you tell us more about you.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. Yes, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to find your show as well. Being a Gold Star mom and having a podcast, it's kind of neat to find another Gold Star mom doing a podcast. It's like, wow, what's the odds?
I have been looking, trust me. I am so happy. So yeah. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I have gone through and I am like, oh my goodness. So production, by the way, thank you to the production team for doing what they are doing. I crammed in there and I was like, listen, this is a very, very unique, I actually have found, and you can talk about that title that we get that we don't want, and it's not a group you want to be in, but it's also led us to, you have a lot going on as far as CEO, founder, folks, I need you to pay attention, because actually Morhia isn't just doing a podcast. So I really want you to understand, there are steps, there are areas that she is focused in that I know that for anyone, and not just a Gold Star family, but when we say resilient patriots, I do say that all the time because part of our station is Resilient Patriot Station. And then Patriots Inside the Wire, I am independent there. But, we got to thank our broadcast team. We've got to thank our media group for doing this. But right now we are on with Morhia. So Morhia, I want to know more. I really want to know about, keep being resilient, or, the resilient journey. There's just so much about being resilient. And I was like, this is interesting. I'm using resilient all over too. So, welcome to Pages Inside the Wire. What I'd like to do is just let me learn, tell me more, let's let everybody understand what's going on.
Sure. Thanks, Tracy. So my son, Keith Bruce Richard, was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed in May of 2021. And my husband and I were just floored at what this meant for us. We sat by our son's side. Well, I sat by my son's side. My husband, being military, wasn't allowed to travel, so he wasn't able to be with our son for a lot of his last months with us. And anyway, so yeah, we launched Keep Being Resilient for siblings and Gold Star families, because the first thing that I did is I found a Gold Star organization that just accepted me and wrapped their arms around me, and it was super loving and kind and wonderful. But it didn't include my husband. It didn't include my children. It didn't include anybody in the family. And that was really hard for our family. First of all, losing our son to illness was really difficult because, pardon me, we literally watched our son pass over 15 months. It wasn't like, just the knock on the door. And I'm not saying anything discounted by that, because I'm so thankful I've never had that knock on the door, especially since my husband's still actively serving. But to watch your child, suffer, and I knew the life that he lived, always giving back to the community, always giving back to the military. And when he joined because of the brother on his left, the sister on his right. He joined because of the American people. And that's exactly what I did with Keep Being Resilient. I started it for the American people, for the heroes, right? And for the Patriots, exactly what you're talking about. So we cover military, veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families. And we really want to include first responders because they are some of our nation's heroes.
Oh, yeah.
So Keep Being Resilient is really an amazing organization. We started in Washington State, and we started with some hikes and just some awareness and doing some different crafts and activities together and different outreach projects. We did a beach cleanup and some backpacking or packing backpacks. There we go. We did some of that. We participated with another organization, packing backpacks for homeless, or not homeless, children who are in DHS. So the board of the state, and in Washington State, they purchase hotels, and then they put these big fences around these hotels. And then the children who are too old for foster care are put in these hotels. I'm not kidding. This happens in Washington State, and I don't know if it's happening over in Texas, but this is happening in Washington State. So they purchase these old rundown hotels, and they put these children who are, should be in foster care with foster families into these hotel rooms. And so they go to school and they come home, and so they have their dinner, right? But then they don't get a snack. And I don't know about like you, but my kids always got snacks, after dinner, or maybe even right after school. They'd get a snack and then have dinner later, or maybe have dinner right away and then have a snack later. And these children weren't getting that. And so Keep Being Resilient, my son absolutely was giving back to the homeless community and people who just suffer injustice. My son was always about standing up for everybody. And I really loved that about him. And we just decided to continue his mission, honestly, because a person dies twice, right? So they die the day of their death, and then they die again when their name quits getting spoken, right? We can never forget. And so that's what I'm doing with my son, as I'm never forgetting. And my son was really amazing at Christmas. So the older child becomes an adult. He's out on his own. Our daughter, she grows up. She graduates high school. She goes out on her own. And it's just the youngest one with my husband and I, and we're having Christmas dinner. And we always go around the dinner table, like, what are you thankful for, And my son's just like kind of kicking his feet back and forth and really kind of like, just, you could tell he wasn't having a good time. And we're like, what are you thankful for? And he's like, Mom, it's really hard to find something to be thankful for when I can think about all the homeless people right now, just not even being able to have this dinner. Like, I can't do this. And my husband and I were like, okay, well, what do you want to do about it? Because that's the kind of people we are. Okay, so there's a problem. Well, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
We're the one like, okay, so we're not going to be part of the problem. We're not going to be the ones that are sitting on the sidelines. We're going to be the ones grabbing the bag and going in, let's do this.
Yeah.
And,
amazing.
yeah. So my son was telling us that. And so what did we do? We grabbed our, our little plastic Tupperwares and we made up meals and we went and delivered them to people experiencing homelessness that night. Our very first Christmas out on wheels. And we went out and delivered Christmas dinner that very first year. And the people who were receiving the food and the gifts that night were so thankful and told us that, people come around on Thanksgiving, but never on Christmas. Thank you so much. And that really struck a nerve in my son. And it was the next year that my son joined the military.
Right. Yeah. Morhia, we've talked a little bit. You and I are going to end up doing a lot of work together. I don't think you knew this. Did you know that I was one of those kids? So I do know a lot about this area. Like, I literally grew up in a system, which was not a system. It was being homeless, being without, not knowing when you're going to eat, without a roof over your head, and then trying to take care of a little brother. And there's a sister, and it's like, who's going to do this? And it was, since the day I came into the world. And so it was like, I did have one wonderful foster parent. But it was, so that is another area that
we'll have a conversation about.
Exactly. But let's stick to this because you actually, I do love how the analytics behind you and the information that you have in order to improve, a situation. I'm all about solution too. So let's hear more about this because now I'm like, wait a minute. This is hitting the heart and hitting home in a way that I don't really tell people unless it comes at me. And then I am someone like you mentioned, like you can't bring that to me and think that I'm not going to be like thinking that I have to still fix that area too. So, unfortunately, I know what you mean when you say Gold Star Mom, and that just hurts. And I'm going to stop talking by saying cancer sucks, and I know about that too. So there's so much, but you, in your journey, have found so much, and I want everyone to hear and understand.
Thank you. Yeah. So Keith, Bruce, Richard, keep being resilient. That's what we did, right? We went ahead and done the acronym thing, the whole military acronym thing. I know my husband and I are, been doing this for a little while with the military, and I'm still an active duty spouse. Just want to say that I'm still an active duty spouse out there.
Yes, she is
very involved with the military and the veterans community as well.
Right.
And obviously now the Gold Star family community.
Right.
Yeah.
The
community nobody wants to join.
Exactly.
Tracy, you didn't want to join it. I didn't want to join it.
Nope. I have pulled up, for those of you in the broadcast or whether you're doing the podcast, I was pulling up an article, and it is on the cover with Morhia there, Mote, and there's so many labels that I'm like, I really hope that you see the actual broadcast. But if you're just tuning in for the podcast part, Morhia can share with you where you can find this, but stay tuned because, Voices of Valor, Keep Being Resilient, the Resilience Plan, and the Effective Advocates for a Powerful Change, Miss Morhia Mote, Resilient Journeys podcast, and the Resiliency Plan. And so if you're tuning in as a podcast, it's like you're not seeing what I'm seeing. And I'm going, whoa, okay. She really does have multiple avenues. So Morhia, help me understand those avenues too, because you're the CEO, you are a founder. When you say owner, I love that part. In her title, listen, it says owner, and I'm like, because like the independent part is so important, right?
Yep.
And the acronyms, what you're talking about for civilians, yes. In the military, there's usually like 3. Like, here you go. You get an acronym of 3 letters. And so that is what she means. So for those of you, and listen, we're about Patriots. We are about first responders. We are about, this being helpful to anyone in need. So when you said the system, the foster, the not having a place to go or food, I'm like, oh my gosh, how does she keep doing this to me? So why don't you tell me more? Because I actually was one of those kids that when your son did that and said, we need to do something, that would have been me.
So Tracy, I experienced homelessness with my children when they were young.
Wow. Okay.
And that is why it hits my family really hard. My children and I went from having a home to I was in a bad relationship, and that situation happened, right? And I ended up in our vehicle, and we did some camping through the summer, and then school year started. And I don't really want to go into a lot of it, but I do know what experiencing homelessness is. And my children were very familiar with it. They went without food. They know what it's like to not have food. They know what it's like for us to walk to the church and get a sack lunch that we split. 1 lunch, 3 kids and 1 adult. So they get it. So yeah, my children are very, very much like, let's always look out for the one that has had a bad strike of luck. I lost my mom at a very young age. I left my husband, my first husband, the children's father, in 2001, and the kids were really, really young. And my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and it metastasized into her brain, and she passed. And so I was a young mom with 3 little kids going through some major challenges. And so we experienced some hardships and some challenges, but we overcame them. And that's what makes us resilient. And that's why I chose the word resilient when we were making our organization and even our business. So it does say owner and CEO. I am a very happy CEO of my own business called the Resiliency Plan. And what I do is it's just like resiliency plan for a community. They're constantly looking and evaluating and analyzing, where does this community need to be 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, right? And that is how we need to plan our life. That is the same analytical way we need to set up our roadmaps for our life, right? If we want to go to a certain area in our life and have these goals, right, we're going to have SMART goals. They got to be measurable. They got to be attainable. And I literally have taken this and turned it into an amazing program within Keep Being Resilient. So I offer coaching. I went to Heart Math Institute and got my provider's license in stress and well-being so I could be able to help people with stress and with grief and loss. And during that, I was like, oh gosh, well, I'm doing this for Keep Being Resilient, but how am I going to make KBR sustainable? Well, I got to launch a business. I got to launch a business to make my nonprofit sustainable because I want my nonprofit to have plenty of money to help people. I want it to have a charitable foundation, let's hope COVID never happens again. But if it does, a lot of people had to close their doors. Well, this nonprofit organization has a charitable foundation, meaning that I can be open during those types of times.
Mm-hmm.
I did it that way on purpose.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that if you don't have groceries, I can go get those groceries for you. You don't have gas, just like what we were talking about the last time we were together. Gas and groceries. There you go again.
Gas and groceries.us. I mean, you were blowing me away because listen, I did not tell you about, like, you stopped too. I was like, yeah, I'm not going there either, except that you look at me and you think, everybody assumes, and I'm like, be careful, because I actually was that one. And every time I talk to you, I'm just like, wow, I don't know what it is, but I am supposed to meet you. Even me, like, it may look like I have it all figured out, but honestly, I don't. Like, I'm not someone who's going to sit there and pretend that, like, everything's all okay. So, I mean, stress, well-being, the grief part, so I'm very invested into, between your journey and like trying to keep the body healthy and your mind and your family. Like,
the mind is so important, Tracy. People don't understand we have to take care of our minds. And they think it's an American thing, like, oh, they just all want to, self-care. And it's like, no, self-care is so important. And it actually goes back many, like thousands of years, right?
Right.
I mean, in the Bible, it talks about meditating on the Lord. And I mean, we can go on and on and on about how self-care is important, making sure that we're, structured with support, having that support circle. If you don't have it, go and build it. Go find the right people, go find the right organizations. There's a lot of great organizations out there supporting our military and veterans and the Gold Star families and the first responders now. And I'm super excited to meet an organization like yours and like, Ranger Rick, who was on your show. Like, those organizations, those people are pouring their heart. The founders are pouring their heart into their organizations. They're pouring their time. They're pouring their own money, their own finances to go and make a difference. And I think that's what we're supposed to do as Americans. The reason why we have freedom of speech is so we can continue to keep our speech, so we can continue to go and make changes. We can go and continue to create the world we want to live in, create the communities we want to live in. And that is our responsibility. Right. And so keep being resilient. Sorry, I keep getting off on a tangent here, but my husband received orders to Fort Liberty in August of last year and 2023, just so I can get the year on there in case anybody's listening 6-7 years later. But so we were given orders over to Fort Liberty, and we PCS'd and arrived in Fort Liberty in October of 2023. And of course, I did all my homework because any right person would, I made sure to contact all the organizations in the community I was moving to. I made sure to reach out to all the military organizations, veteran organizations. I went and made all of my contacts at the Soldier Support Center and met all my survivor outreach service coordinators, and, just going and plugging in and networking within the community is so important.
Right. And what's interesting, so you mentioned things that normal people would be like, what is survivor outreach services? Survivor outreach services, SOS, not SOS, a nonprofit, but survivor outreach services within the Army is a outreach within the military community. And I do have a lot of knowledge there. But for those out there that are patriots, are civilians, it's the military that has its own in-house contract service for taking care of us long term, literally. Like, they send out the information. Honestly, the only organization. There's not a nonprofit that's going to have every single email and every single Gold Star family's information except for them. Right. So I always stress that. I say, if you really believe that a nonprofit or something is running or knows the Gold Star families, it's actually not how it works. It runs through the military. So you can't really look up knowledge. You can't really go by Google. You go by the military, and that is the way that it works when you're in the military. So when you say survivor outreach services, I'm making sure that our civilians understand that, these acronyms or these names, and they understand what kind of world we're talking about. So I understand about plugging in, and I want them to understand more. So continue on. I'm just making sure they understand our world.
No, thank you, Tracy, for pointing that out. Sometimes I forget, being a military spouse, this is our language, this is how we speak. And I totally did throw out some acronyms. And so thank you for pausing to do that.
I want to learn. So tell me more.
Sure. So when we were preparing to move over there, I wanted to do an organization called Gold Star Families. And in Washington State, there's an amazing organization called Gold Star Families of Washington. Mona McNeil is the founder of that. Really, really treasure her. I met her through another organization at that time, or previously before that time. And we became very close. And so I was really liking what she was doing, incorporating the entire Gold Star family, not just, the mothers, not just the whole family is where I'm going with that. Right. And that's important. And that speaks to my heart because I wanted to make sure the siblings were covered. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. And because I wanted to make sure siblings were covered, because my son was 22, forever 22. My daughter was 23, and my other son was 27. So yeah, they really needed some love. And so when you think, the Gold Star sibling, they're probably like a child. No, they're adults. These are adults that really needed some support. They really needed some love and extra attention. And that's where I want to start presenting House bills that are going to cover these families, these Gold Star families. This is my first time even mentioning this. I mean, I've told it to my circle of friends and stuff, but I want to bring a House bill in that supports Gold Star families for mental health services for life. I'm sorry. Goodness. It has to be done. It has to be
said they should not be coming to our door without a counselor or someone that sticks with us nonstop. Please don't send a soldier, a service member, because there's different branches. But it's just like in the movie, you get the knock. I'm in the corner of my couch because I know it's coming. And I have something that I'll play for you sometime, and it's my words. And I was frozen in the corner of my couch just waiting. And you get a soldier dressed in his dress uniform and a chaplain, but you don't get you think the chaplain's actually doing what a church service might do, but no, it's to deliver you information that is the worst information in the world. Or in your case, the handling of what's happening. And it's wait a minute, you still have an active duty husband serving. So I have always said they needed to have a counselor come to my house, who didn't leave me. How can we do this? This is crazy to me. I need that.
And even for us too, especially because my husband has had multiple deployments. My husband's deployed 6 times. And so that's a lot of deployments that our family has went through. And then for our son to pass, I feel exactly what you're saying. Yeah, great. Okay, so you're going to give me a CAO, which is a casualty assistance officer, if anybody's listening. But as you know, they're going to send a CAO to my house, and they're going to knock on my door, but they're not a counselor. They're not trained in that
Not at
kind
all.
of. Mm-mm.
Not
And
at all.
I do have a really great chaplain friend from the military who is a licensed therapist. So I really treasure him. And he decided to take it one step further because he's like, you don't know how many times I went downrange and I needed to offer more than prayers.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
I
mean, those are true statements. Like,
that's true.
Yeah. So anyways, I know I keep getting sidetracked. So Gold Star Families of North Carolina, I started researching when I got to North Carolina and was like, hey, I want to do Gold Star Families of Washington, but here in North Carolina. And before I did that and moved forward with creating a chapter of the Gold Star Families of Washington, another chapter out in North Carolina, I did my homework. I did my research, and I was like, is there already one? Well, there was one that started in 2014 on Facebook. I found them, Gold Star Families of North Carolina. I'm going to keep saying it. And Patricia Brazos family, Sean Brazos was their son. I told you, I try to remember all the service members' names.
Yeah, I try.
I really do. It means a lot to me that people remember my son's name. So I try to remember everybody else's names. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so so Sean's mother, Patricia, said, yes, I do have this organization. There's only about 35 people in it. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, I started it in 2014. And let me tell you again, this is in 2023. 9 years. And she's like, it's mostly just people I've met. And I'm like, that are Gold Star families. And I'm like, okay. So she said, yes, I would love for you to take it on, because I asked if I could help support her. And she was like, no, I would love for you to take it. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. My husband and I are retired. We want to step back. We have some medical things coming up. We would love to step back. Would you and your husband like to move forward with this? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah. So we immediately adopted it with Keep Being Resilient as one of our programs. So Gold Star Families of North Carolina is now a program of Keep Being Resilient. We just had our big summer soiree, the first annual, super excited about it. We had about 40 people there, so it wasn't real big, but small is intimate, right?
Yes. Thank you. I love that. I love it. I mean, your summer soiree. So, did you do that like at what kind of location? Like, what did that look like?
Sure. So we did that at the place called Rick's Place, and that is on Shenandoah Drive in Fayetteville. Mm-hmm. And that is the Rick Harima Foundation. And that is another Gold Star family.
Wow.
They launched that nonprofit organization. They have 50 acres. And they have it all set up as a park from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. All military and veterans are welcome to bring their children and their kiddos to that park. You can bring a ball. You can hit the ball. You can play soccer. I mean, 50 acres is a lot of acreage. So there's a lot you can do. And they have a tree house that's super big and tall, and the kids loved it. And we had more kids than I could have even planned on coming. I was really surprised how many kids that came to the summer soiree, because I was like thinking, oh, maybe like 5 or 6 kids. No, we had like almost 15 kids.
Wow. That's good and bad.
I know.
It's good and bad. So I'm so glad you're there. I wish you were here too.
Well, and
So,
I've doubled the membership with our team. Our team has been able to double our membership for Gold Star Families of North Carolina. We're reaching out. We're meeting a lot of different organizations, partnered up with the Tree of Valor. Lori over there, her and I are doing some I'm not co-hosting, but we're doing some events,
co-sponsoring.
coexisting in some events
Yeah.
together. There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. I actually do know Lori. That's how I found you. Actually, I got a phone call and I was like, she was like, you really have to talk to Morhia. And I was like, okay. But when I met her, there was a situation that I witnessed, and I was with my youngest son, who's, he's 15 now. Just turned 15. Like, you would like to think he's a grown 6'3", 240. Like, when you talk about Ranger Rick, I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to show him the pictures. I haven't shown him yet, but I'm like my youngest looks like he's like I'm like, wow. And that can be bad too, though, because it's like he's wise old soul, but he's supposed, like, they think he's grown. So the event we were at, like, nobody approached. Nobody. Now, I don't want to say it was a bad event. It was a great event. Like, to me, music is very medicinal for me, and him too. But the bad part is he does look like he's a grown adult. So, but nobody ever like approaches or is like, doesn't even know how to interact. It's almost like the fear of, what do you go up like you would if they're normal. Like, it's like,
I walk up like I'm family. I just walk up and I'll just grab them, hug them, love them, care about them. And, that's how I met these families, because that's pardon me, that's the first event that I was able to do. We had one scheduled in February, but our daughter had an emergency in January and she passed in February. And so we ended up having her service like the week after our first event was supposed to be happening. And so we couldn't do it. We had to cancel at the last minute. I was so embarrassed, but everybody was very understanding. I just was embarrassed that who could make this huge event and then be like, oh, I'm going to cancel it last minute. But I mean, everybody understood. But I felt really bad, and so the Gold Star families hung on. They were like, okay, we believe you're real. You're going to come and do stuff with us. And I was like, I really am. And I thank you for understanding and being patient and, supportive. And so then we decided to go ahead and kick it off in the summer. We got home back to North Carolina in April after settling our daughter's estate. And so we started making the plans for the summer soiree, and it was so wonderful. We've doubled our membership. And I say membership when it's really not a member-based organization. I had that option when I built the organization, and I went non-member based. A lot of the organizations that I know of, or even that I'm a part of, cost money. And I did not want to do that with Keep Being Resilient. I did not want to charge an annual fee of my people to participate. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't like that. And so, if you want to buy shirts and help support or anything like that, right, or buy some of the, the things that we have at the events, great, lovely, wonderful. If you want to do a fundraiser in our honor or help us with one of our fundraisers, wonderful. Right. But I'm not going to charge you a membership fee and then tell you, I'm sorry, you're not a part of this group because you didn't pay your dues.
Oh,
sorry, I can't do it. So anyways, we're very inclusive in our organization. We are not just post 9/11. We are pre 9/11 as well. And I'm so glad I did that because I've met two sisters that are Gold Star children in their 60s.
Really?
And their dad is POW MIA. And they don't fit into a lot of these organizations for Gold Star families because they're pre 9/11, not post 9/11.
Wow.
And I told them, no. The nice thing about having my own nonprofit organization that I founded and that I wrote the bylaws to, that I created, that I took the time to pour my heart and soul into, was to make sure that there was no limits like that on these people.
Yeah.
That's not fair. It's not right. And do you know that because I have that openness and that inclusiveness with them, they were our only cash supporters for our summer soiree, those two family members.
Wow. You're talking about the two that are in their 60s.
Yes.
Children. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
it wasn't a business. It was
the people.
Two sisters whose father is not come home yet. He's still MIA.
That's not okay.
Yeah. And so I don't believe in having an organization where I start limiting people and saying, oh no, well, you don't quite fit in, or, oh, nope, the date's wrong. Sorry. I can't do that, Tammy and our Tracy. Sorry. I keep doing that to you because I have another really good friend, Tammy, who's actually at that Rick's place. But,
oh, wow. No way. And
yep. That's why I keep calling you Tammy, is because I keep thinking of her.
Yeah. Well, we met at a unique time. Remember, like I just lost one again recently. Very, very, very recent.
Oh, sorry.
Her name's Laura. And so like when I heard you and your laugh, number one, is infectious, and it's her. And like the humor is like, I don't know if other people would think our humor is funny, but I think it is. But I have been able to talk to you about so much that I was like, so many people really need to know who you are, what you're doing, but honestly, what you're saying, because there aren't too many people that are saying, like, I'm like, come on, like, we have to build this unit. I say unit because military, tribe, whatever name you want to call it, we have to build it. And then let them come. It's like cheesy, but it's like, you know, the baseball movie or whatever, like reference. But what I'm trying to get at is you've built a model, is what you've done. And within your business, you also have the nonprofit. And within that nonprofit, you have noticed that there are people that are not included. And sort of like in our world, like in general, like our civilians, our patriots, our first responders, you know, there are so many areas that just people are forgotten. And I said, when I grow up, I will never, ever, ever like allow anyone to like not get help or to be around situations they shouldn't be in as a kid, or not have food and not have a roof over their heads. And I'm like, how does she keep doing this? Like, she's pulling out these personal parts of me that, you know, I've been saying, like, I'm going to do a documentary, and I have a lot of different things that I would go into depths that I would never do right here. But I don't know how. But you and I, like, have so many areas. And that's why I'm like, you know, even I will admit to you right now, like, do I need to understand someone like you and what you're doing? Yes. I don't live in North Carolina, but we're national right now. So it's like, I mean, I don't care like what state, what city. It's like,
oh, well, we're military. We're national too. I mean,
I was going to say,
I'm in Oregon right now. We were living in Washington.
I know
10 years, and now we're living in North Carolina. But I'm all the way over in Oregon right now. So I get it.
Yes. So I want people to know that, hey, I would like to, not even for just an event. Like, I would like to. I'm already thinking of going to another thing that's happening there. So I'm like, I definitely want to spend some time with you, like even one-on-one, right? Because it's very rare. Well, I don't know how, but it's like this person knew that we were supposed to be together, because she was like, you know, a while back, she was like, you have to meet this person. You don't understand. Like, and I, of course, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but there are a lot of things that just, there are certain times that, like, when things are going and you're trying to work on something and it's like, oh, and you were saying, I'm sorry earlier to the Gold Star families because your daughter passed, and you should not be saying sorry. What you should be is like, oh my goodness, 2 children. And then here you are, like, helping, like, like me, like people that have lost theirs, or I like to say families. Yeah, I'm very, very, very aware. Siblings, the family, like, where are my people? And Morhia, you have, like, I have gone through so much, and I can even pull up things. So for those that want to, like, view, I really want you to understand, because there's so many areas here. The Resilient Journeys podcast with Patriots Inside the Wire has some work that's going to be done. And I am able to pull up a lot of stuff right now. So I know that we have our broadcast station. So thank you to that, Mr. Bird. I want to make sure that this gets out there. And so Resilient Journeys, you can find them on YouTube. That's a very easy way. But listen, we would like to talk about broadcasting on a level that, like, you talk about, like, trying to find, like, wait, is this working, or is this the way, like, and then you're talking about, like, okay, so PCS, there's another 3-letter, but for our civilians, for our patriots, for the people that, want to know more about how this works, that means they're moving again, folks. So when she said, oh, we're all over, she meant it. When my son left, or my like, in each generation, someone has served in our family. Another subject that I really want to get into, it's like, there's a situation that nobody's talking about, and one of the other ones is the war on drugs and those kids that grew up in that. And I'm like, where and what happened with them? Now, some of them are the people that, went through their battles with it, and they're trying to come out on the other side, or they have. And so it's interesting to me because someone around you that you sent my way just did a podcast and was, like, completely upfront and honest and out there about how, that subject. And I was like, Morhia, I don't know how you do it, but somehow you're bringing up every category. And I'm going, okay, so we're supposed to do some work together. Like, there is some work to be done. And your journey is in your brand. So, because
it is in my brand, Resilient Journeys.
It's like your brand, the nonprofit, I really want them to understand there are so many levels here that I want to break down, because we're going to have to do, we're going to need to do some work on the back channels. But, between the Resilient Journeys, that's a podcast, folks, and it's a foundation. It is a company. It is a podcast. But you actually talked about a course, and that course on the grief and the stress and the wellness. I'm wondering about this course. So what can you tell me about it?
Sure. So the course that I have out right now, I actually have 6 books wrote. So I'm turning all of them into courses. But right now, what is out is the fundamentals of resiliency. And then I have What is Resiliency? I'm writing Resiliency and Loss and Grief right now. Resiliency in Parenting, Resiliency in Marriage. So those are the ones that I'm really trying to push out there, and just really trying to talk about mindset shift, right? So my husband came up with a really great acronym for shift that you'll see in this course. And I'm very proud of him. My husband's been an amazing support. He may not be out there as much as I am and the light and everything. He's more the behind the scenes kind of person. But without his support, I would not be able to do what I'm doing.
Right.
Without my family's support and my husband's support, very dear to me. And then also, we've just built some really great strategic partnerships along the way because, sure, I can do the mindset coaching and loss and grief and really help and support the families. But there are other ways to provide support as well. And I found this new peer protocol by Healing the Hero.
Wow.
And I have partnered with Dan Jarvis, and Healing the Hero is now a part, not that I'm taking putting him under KBR, but he is training our volunteers, like our board members, in this peer protocol so we can help people get through trauma in a phone call.
Wow.
And we're doing this because we have to be able to immediately connect with these families, especially the ones who are struggling and challenged with SI. And I'm not going to break that one down for anybody. If you wonder what that is, it's the mental health. You can figure that one out.
22 a day. That is suicide awareness. Yep. I will say it because I have a family member that I raised, and there's a situation. So I will say it for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I will. But continue, because honestly, I'll be your guinea pig. Like literally. Like you're talking about the phone call and that. I mean, I am very, very honest. Listen, there are too many people that actually need that. So it's like, a lot of people need this information because it is a situation that it's like a stigma is attached. Yeah. And I really, really want people to understand how to maybe like educate, be more aware, and understand.
Yes, so I actually want to speak on that. So Tracy, Healing the Hero, one of the things, okay, so first of all, Dan is former military. Dan also served as a police officer, and Dan has a business called Tactical Resiliency.
Okay.
There's that word again. Hey.
Yeah. Yeah, we all like that word, apparently.
We do.
I love
it. So, it's just really great to have met him in this organization. And one of the things that I really like is that I met him at Fort Liberty a couple of weeks ago. Not that I just met him, like we've known each other for a while, but I was finally able to meet him because he lives in Florida or Georgia. I don't remember because I think it's Florida, but then I heard him say Georgia the other day and I was like, wait a second, maybe he's just traveling. I don't know. But anyways, but him and I met at Fort Liberty. Area. And there was a service member who took his life. And so he was there talking with the service members and, talking to them and letting them know that they can reach out to Healing the Hero. And let me say this again. You can reach out to Healing the Hero, and it will not be tracked by anybody above you, by the military, nothing. It will not go on your paperwork.
Thank you.
They're there for you. Yeah. They will provide services for you, and they will help you get through these challenges. They will help you overcome these challenges.
Morhia, who will they help? Are you talking about?
They are there to help military, veterans, first responders, and Gold Star families.
Oh, great.
They cover the same umbrella I do.
Wow. Okay. And Helping the Hero, would that be helpingthehero.org?
Healing the Hero.
Healingthehero.com.org.
Healingthehero.org. Okay.
Healingthehero.org. I want to make sure everybody hears that because that's really important. And incredible. So now I'm following this. So you've got, 6 books.
I know. I got a lot of them I'm rattling out. I apologize. I'm very networked.
6. I can't get one. I won't get into that part, but I work in legislation a lot. So when you were talking about bills, we're going to have to put that on the back channel, because I'm telling you, like, that, like, in the Gold Star parent world, they're like, oh, if you mention the word legislation, call Tracy. And I'm like, fine, like, I'll take it. Like, just like, apparently I've just fallen into the category. So it's like, okay, so I actually shut down my nonprofit. So Patriots Inside the Wire is right now I don't make a dime. Like, we're looking for sponsors. We're partnered, but we still need to have some food and like electricity and like the basics that I said.
The basics.
Yeah, right? Now I'm like, because the way I grew up, it's like, that's a scary sort of situation. So I just want to make sure of that. So I'm just tuning in here and I'm just wanting to hear more. So, like, you're talking about, other organizations, your books. Where can we find your books and when?
So I don't have the ISBN numbers yet. So okay. I know I need to do all that, but I think I have to self-publish these books. I think I'm going to have to self-publish. I've looked into the costs and it's like $20,000 a book. It's ridiculous. It's just an expensive business card. That's all it is. I'm telling you, because I know I'm going to give them away for free. That's what I
do. So you have to do the business part, and then you end up doing the S Corp, and then you end up doing the nonprofit.
Yes.
That's how you have to do that.
And you know what we did is we did it the smart way. So if you are a business owner and you're paying taxes like most business owners do, right. You can take part of your business money that you're making and you can donate it to a nonprofit organization, which is what we've decided to do with our business. So 30% of everything we make at the resiliency plan goes straight over to keep being resilient, to keep us sustainable.
Wow. Well,
and one day I want to make that 50%. I want to give that nonprofit more money.
Yes. It needs it, because there's so many needs out there.
Yeah.
And to keep being resilient, I want to say the name Keith, because, I get it. And I always use 2 steps for me. So that's the name. When you say Sergeant 2-Step or 2-Step, okay, that's Tracy's son, the first, like my oldest. And then, because I want to remember, listen, we have a situation with the whole family. We have a situation with the kids. Like, I still have one in here that I'm like, he needs to somehow be around things that just aren't, down. Like, I really want to understand like other things, other areas. And I believe you're hitting that. I think that you understand so many areas that I hope that others can learn from, because it needs to be there. Like, it's not even a want. This is a need because of the holes that get left in America, in society, whether you're talking about mental health, whether you're talking about cancer. Cancer sucks. I like to say family a lot. I like to say siblings. And I know that, when we met, like, that was the biggest, like, topic. So between the books, between running we're going to use acronyms here, folks. Keep Being Resilient is KBR. And your journey of the books, the writing and the self-publishing and writing your own bylaws.
The books as courses on our website soon. They'll all be up there soon.
And I'm like, wait, you're writing courses too. So not just 6 books. So right. I want everybody to understand there's actual courses that they can take. Now, look, I have put myself in a category on purpose. There's a lot of people that their journey is not where they're going to be up front like that. Like, it's not something that's easy to go into. Even I get speechless when it comes to me, but helping others is my journey. If I keep helping others, it helps me. Okay, so I understand focusing on one area because, you know, in honor of what happened to you and your journey in your husband, child, whatever it may be. But there is an avenue that I'd like to make it inclusive to everybody. And I don't mean just us in the Gold Star world. I mean legislation for the mental health awareness of multiple subjects. And so we've discussed a couple of those, but I do believe there's several legislative pieces in here too. I don't want to give you more work, but I have to tell you.
You and I are so not political, but we're very legislative. We're like, let's go change some laws.
Oh, there used to be a PBS show, and it was like, oh, it's a bill, and it dances on, PBS. I don't know if you know, like, I didn't have a TV growing up, but I do remember this because, like, in the school, it was like, oh, you take the bill, and it's like dancing, and it's like rolled up in a scroll, and it's dancing on TV. And I remember seeing that, and like how they made that into a cartoon. Like, wow, like that stuck with me. And so before I found myself in the military world, I decided to go open up like an organization, and like, well, I feel like these are areas that we need to focus on, and just connecting. And I'm like, okay, well, if we're gonna make the change, I want people to be the ones working on that, right? So right now, I'm just a mom. I am a mother who witnessed and knows and has a journey that's just too many holes. I gotta try to keep myself in a positive lane too, so that balance of, our Gold Star families out there have their journey, and and a lot of organizations named after their child, which is amazing, right? That is amazing. There's so many areas that I'm like, actually,
yes, there's so many organizations. We're filling in the gap. That's the new thing of the national president with American Gold Star Moms, which I am a member of. So, but I don't represent them by any means. I'm not representing, but her motto for this year is fill in the gap. That is what our organizations do.
I am behind that, like taking care of everyone that has served. I think it's great because that shows your character. You are a giver. Like, I'm like, Morhia, let's talk about yours. But I do want to be very, very clear. We are not affiliated with actually any type of anything to do with moms, just the moms organization. So, so Gold Star Family Foundation and Fallen Heroes National Foundation, you will find me. But Patriots Inside the Wire is just completely like you mentioned before, like you've got to have a business and then you've got to have your foundation. And so I don't even I use the word foundation up there because when you're working in legislation or you're working on making a change, I want to be respectful of the other organizations. And so I want to make sure that I'm letting our listeners and our viewers understand that you are too. Like, this is why you're bringing every other organization up. I'm like, wow, you're working with everyone, and that's what we need to do.
Well, that's how we're supposed to make the America better and
work together
and our communities better. We have to work together. I don't understand organizations who are like, well, this is the way that I do mine. Okay, great. Let's partner and do something better things, greater things together.
Like, I am all about that. So I really wanted to make sure that, like, for you as Morhia and what you're doing in your organization, in your company, and keep being resilient, for your son Keith, and then your daughter, and then your son. Look, your husband is still serving. You're still a wife of someone who's active duty. Morhia, you said that he could not even go to a child's service or be pulled out when things were happening in your world because he is active duty.
Yeah, so it was during COVID time. So my husband couldn't even come over where my son was stationed. He was able to go when our son was first diagnosed, but then he wasn't allowed to do anything. And so we actually had to do I think it's called a congressional transfer or waiver or something. And I had to we fought from our son's diagnosis in February until December to get my son transferred to where we were stationed.
Wow.
So let me repeat that again. From February to December, we fought to get our son, who was dying of cancer, transferred to my husband's base so we could be with our son on his last of his life.
What did you do? Did you decide to go to the base where Keith, I like to say Keith, did you go to that base for him?
Oh, I was I'm not military. I can travel all I want. I was on that plane, the whole time COVID was happening, and that showed 3 people on the plane. I was one of the 3 people on the plane. That was me, because I was mama going back and forth with my grandson, because my son, my grandson was only 6 months old when my son was diagnosed. And and it was during COVID. And so my daughter-in-law couldn't even keep her son because she was taking my son in and out of these doctor's appointments 5 days a week and couldn't have her son to take my son to his appointments. So I had to come to North Carolina where they were living and stay with them so I could care for my grandson. And my daughter-in-law and I would take turns. She would either take my son that week or I would take my son, because his appointments, I apologize for that noise. It's a thing, but
organic here.
Yeah. So, I would have to take my son up there because it was 3 hours from their house, and his appointments were Monday through Friday. And so we would stay at Ronald McDonald House and then come home to his house on the weekends. It was just crazy. It was crazy. It was a crazy time for everybody in the world, right? Because it was COVID. And then crazy times because,
the cancer sucks, number one. Number two, that other word, I tried it. I haven't. I do have the
no, that's another yucky C word. And I
know.
It wasn't even so much COVID. We all know that. It was more of the restrictions that were put upon us, not being able to be there for family members because of the restrictions that were placed and stuff. But that's a whole nother segment in itself. It really is.
We're talking about Keith. But one area I think I was not getting clear that I want to make sure everyone else is clear on is, so Keith actually was married and has a baby, a child. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. I want to make sure that
she's actually from North Carolina. Actually from South Carolina, but they met in North Carolina. She still lives in North Carolina. And I'm very thankful that we got stationed there. It's kind of interesting how life works, though, because we weren't stationed there till after our son passed. And it's okay. But I mean, now I get to be with my grandson. My grandson just turned 5, and I get to be involved in his school and his life. And
what is
my daughter-in-law and I are so close, and we are one of those very rare families, very rare American families. We do multi-generational living. So my daughter-in-law, my grandson, my husband, I, and my sister, we all live in a huge 5,000 square foot house. It's a very nice home.
That is amazing. What is your grandson's name?
Carson.
Aw, Carson.
Well, I have 2 grandsons, Zayden and Carson.
Zayden. Oh,
Yeah, that's my
Ash-
oldest grandson from my oldest son, and then Carson is
wow.
my youngest grandson, and
Yeah.
so I have two.
Yeah, that, aw. Well, I love that. So I think that's amazing. But I do want to point out that you do have a nonprofit, and I want you to make sure to tell them what that nonprofit is. Can you tell us again where to go for the nonprofit?
Yes, please. Keepbeingresilient.org. That is
Got
the
it.
place to go and find us.
Got
It
it.
will right now forward you to our new website. I don't want to try to give that one over. I got to figure that
Well,
out. I need to change that a little bit, but
I have
keepbeingresilient.org.
got it. Keepbeingresilient.org. And I am pulling up, by the way, if any for our viewers, but within our podcast, I am pulling up different things here. And I do want to tell you, like, go on YouTube for the resiliency plan, but then keep being resilient. Go to the website, and that is .org. And soon you'll find even more, between 6 books, a resiliency plan, and a whole community of your host here, Mrs. Morhia Mote, is actually a Gold Star mom, an active duty wife. And between the courses, between the books, and all of this, in that world that has to do with what I call cancer sucks. Keep being resilient. I mean, I really want people to understand. I want you to go visit that. And then that way you understand more. And then, check out the YouTube, because that way you can understand, like, there is a nonprofit that is supporting the people. There is an actual course that will help. So I want them to understand. I want them to remember who Morhia Mote is, because Morhia is the machine behind Keep Being Resilient. Check that out. The resiliency journey. Like, I'm going to pull it up again, because I really, really, really want them. Those that I want you to come back. I know the podcast listeners, but I really need to say this to you. I'm pulling this up. Here is Morhia, military advocacy, voices of valor, keep being resilient. Keith is her son's name, who was serving active duty, meaning we got thrown into this world where it's called Gold Star Moms. It's not a sticker, folks. It's a bad thing. You don't want it. The resilient plan. Okay, so a plan. I'm like, oh, somebody has a plan for that? And then you've got effective, being an effective advocate. Okay, let's just, now the effective part, I have figured out some things. Resilient journeys. The journeys and the plan, resiliency plan. And while you're talking about so many other organizations, I'm like, I'm going to make sure that we talk about yours. So keepbeingresilient.org is an organization that is she's in a nonprofit, literally, and a business CEO. So, and like the resilient, their journey, like, there is a plan. Like, I didn't know there's a plan.
There's a plan, there's a journey.
I'm like, I need to know that plan, because I don't know the plan. I just know that life has these different lanes, and it's like, okay, like, here's what you need to do, only because I had to live it. So
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, is there a plan? And like, let's be more effective. How can we be more effective?
Nobody tells us that we're supposed to have a plan. I mean, we kind of know that we need to know what we need to do when we grow up, but
right. Well, as moms, you just have to do it. I have to do this, I have to do that. Whatever that plan and journey is where I'm like, Morhia, I need a plan, because my journeys are very, very unique, but they're really not, because I don't want everyone to think that we're just military, because we're not. We are people. And this course that you have and what you do will work for everyone. So it's not just for military. So I want our civilians, I want our patriots, I want our first responders, I want our military. I want anybody that's, going through their journey, whether it's grief, whether it's loss, whether it's like an effective plan for advocating in legislation, whatever it may be, that Morhia, you actually have courses, you actually have a plan, you actually know the journey. So, I want to close by having you talk more about you and where to find you and information, because you even have a QR code here, and that's smart, because I did the same thing. So with this, and I know that the people that are listening to the podcast, listen, you can go to YouTube. That's the easiest one for you. Or if you're on Facebook, to Patriots Inside the Wire, because I am pulling up pictures. And literally, you can scan this. You can go to her website. You can go to YouTube. So I really want to make sure that if you're just listening to the podcast, that you understand where to find Morhia. Let's go, Morhia. Let's
Sure. Well, I just really wanted to say thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Tracy, for having Morhia, the founder of Keep Being Resilient, here with you tonight. And remember that resilience is within us all, waiting to be discovered. Keep being resilient. Join us next time for more inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until then, take care of yourself and each other.
Morhia, and here what I'm doing is pulling up a couple pictures because I really want to show Keith. I don't have one of Brianna, but I do want to acknowledge that too, and that's her daughter. And Morhia, Mrs. Morhia Mote. I don't know what else to say except that the people need to know all about you and your machine. So between the machine and the broadcast, there are so many pieces here. Look, truth be told, there's going to be a lot coming at you. So Morhia the machine is right here, and be resilient. So
thank you, guys. Yeah, thank you, Tracy.
Morhia, again, thank you for being on Patriots Inside the Wire. PatriotsInsideTheWire.com. If you need to find Morhia, the episode, Patriots Inside the Wire is going to have it on our channels. It is going to have it on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple. It will be on an actual broadcast TV, a channel, every podcast station you can think of on a commercial level. So I do want you to stay tuned. You're going to be able to find her. Morhia, it has been wonderful. I'm going to roll us out here and tell you that, thank you for coming in tonight. And, it's what I call Wednesday Warriors. On a Wednesday, Morhia right here, because I want this viewed on the actual channel. You can check all that out. You can scan that. Or if you're just listening to us, you can actually go look it up. So I want you to look it up or come back and listen to some juicy news too. And I know that I'll be seeing you in person like in the near future. So I can't wait for that either. So
my husband's time with the military is done in January. We're going to be going on tour, and I'm going to be doing speaking engagements across the nation at different military installations, and Fort Hood is going to be on my stop.
Oh, I'm going with you. We always have like multiple singers that come on. They are veterans, and we want you to support them and their music, and they don't get support any longer. This is what I meant about digital era. So I'd like to close out with one of them just in honor of everything that they do and everything that they give back to our show and our broadcast. Here we are. And Mr. Brooks Herring, check out his music, brooksherring.com. You have to add a musician to your playlist. Please listen to me on this. For the veterans that are singing out there and doing what they do, Label 22, we thank you. Mr. Brooks Herring is not with Label 22, but he is on tour a lot. And that's just brooksherringmusic.com. Brooks Herring, look up his music, add him to your playlist. That's how he gets credit. It's called The Good Parts, and it's Brooks Herring music. I want you to check it out because that's how they get credit. And Morhia, I'm playing this for you. Thank you.
You can't say you know me unless you know drunk and drive. You can't say you love me and not love Mr. High. You can't praise me for the camera and shame me at the bar. No, you can't have me and only take the good parts. But it sure ain't that hard. It's the time in between, babe, that tears me apart. When the stage light pollution seems to block out the stars, it's the neon glass sparkle that makes up the good part. Black and white, I've begged for forgiveness. Oh, I poured out my heart, praying I make it long enough to see the good part. Coming home.
Mr. Brooks Herring there on Wednesday Warriors with PatriotsInsideTheWire.com. Tonight we have enjoyed having Mrs. Morhia Mote on for a wonderful broadcast and podcast, and we thank Mr. Brooks Herring music. That was the good parts. You really need to check out multiple songs that are there for our veterans. We say thank you for all of you out there tuning in, listening, watching. Tune back in because there's a lot brewing, and we are rolling out right now. Again, please check out what is going on, and we're not going to give away all the secrets, so we want you to tune back in. And you know what? Take care of each other out there. Life is pretty short, and we need each other. So thank you so much.
Thank you for watching another episode of Patriots Inside the Wire, hosted by Gold Star Mom, Tracy Two-Step. Help us broaden our reach. Like, subscribe, and share.
Don't stop it, Roots! So, I'm my brother Two-Step.